Today, we're gonna take this aftermarket black fender, color match it, and use Rattle can paint and other products that you can find online or at your local store. Now, the coolest thing about this video is we're gonna use real clear coat. That's right, clear coat that comes out of an aerosol can. The same type of clear coat that would be in my paint gun is put into an actual can. Then we have your regular plastic you can get from the store. We're gonna talk about why we shouldn't use this, but we are gonna use it. We got some newspaper to go with that plastic, and then we got your regular painter's tape. Now we're gonna go ahead and tape up all of our areas that we don't wanna scuff or we don't want paint. We're gonna tape it up one time to kind of save you guys some money, so tape it up good and make sure you have all your edges. This is just your regular 3M painter's tape. It will work just fine. So he'll tape up every single edge, and then we'll start with our scuffing. A pocket screwdriver if you need to kind of bend up that tape. Under the hood, fold it under. Next up, we have a Maroone scuff pad. We're gonna lightly go over the surface, making sure we don't go down to bare metal. We just really want to bond between the paint and the primer. And go ahead and clean the surface off with wax and grease remover once you've scuffed it up. The driver's side is already done and ready to go into the booth. But you guys don't need a paint booth to do this project. This paint booth has great lighting, and I want this to be seen on camera, so that's why we're in here. Okay, so we got the car in the booth. Now let's talk about plastic, because you know, you think it's such a simple thing, but if you use the wrong plastic, you get yourself into trouble. If you can spare, go ahead and get yourself some automotive-based plastic. This stuff is treated on one side. It'll actually say on one side, spray this side, and that way when the overspray hits it, it holds the overspray and it doesn't flake. But if you're just doing this job, and maybe it's one job a year you do, you can go down to your local Walmart, Lowe's, whatever it might be, and get yourself some plastic. It can be 0.5 or 1 mil, it doesn't really matter. It will do the job. Now, what will happen though is when you paint, after you put the primer and base, as that paint gets hit with air from the Rattle can, that paint can actually flake up. If you got your paper boy around, he's gonna go ahead and he's gonna deliver you some newspaper that you can use. Now this newspaper that you can use is gonna be on the outer edge of your plastic, and we'll show you that a little bit later to kind of keep that overspray from flaking right into your brand new paint job. So the same process is happening on both of the fenders. What Drew is using now is a water-based cleaner. It removes any contaminants or oils from your fingers or skin. Now, if you don't get water-based cleaner, you can use spray-away glass cleaner that you can get Walmart, Publix, or any of those grocery stores. Next, you want a tack cloth just to go over the surface to remove any sort of lint. Next, we're going to use this Perfect Match primer. We're going to apply it with about a 75% overlap, and we're going to allow it to dry about 10 minutes in between coats. First, test your pattern to make sure that there's no debris. Then you want to have a little bit of a paper towel to wipe it off every so often so it doesn't splatter. Now we're going to go ahead with this side and this fender. Did you notice how I was doing long sweeping motions? That's going to keep the paint nice and smooth, and it's going to make sure we have even strokes. Okay, so we let that primer dry for about a good 30 minutes. So remember that maroon scuff pad from before? We're gonna use this as a little bit of a sponge in between our 600 grit sandpaper. And the reason why we're gonna do this is it's because it's gonna help us contour around the rough edges. We don't wanna sand it down too much. We just wanna smooth it out a little bit because sometimes the primer is not gonna come out 100%. And if we have any little fine scratches, this is gonna help make sure that we have a nice smooth finish that's ready for base coat. And then go over it with that water base, or again, that spray away glass cleaner. Now we're gonna repeat that same step on the passenger fender. Now before we spray base, remember how I told you earlier how that plastic can kind of flake off when new paint comes on it, and the pressure and the air from your new paint can just really lift up that old paint right into your fresh paint? Well, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and just cover it with newspaper around all of our edges. That way this paper is gonna hold the overspray a lot better. So we got all the newspaper down, check that out. We've really protected it from flaking back into the paint. We're really liking the look as well. Okay, so we're ready for base. Once again, tack rag over the whole surface, picking up any sort of lint. And we have our Duplicolor, perfect match. Key is, keep it wet. Do not keep it at a far away distance. Maybe even try to do this in the cooler hours of the day. The paint is gonna be much, much smoother. Now you're looking at the panel right here and it looks really streaky. Do not be scared. It also looks light. Well, green doesn't cover that well, so it's gonna take some few coats to even it out and get to the full color that it is. Here we go with our second coat. It's dried off about 10 minutes. So we have our second coat down. Now it's a little bit streaky. So originally with the first and second coat, we wanted to go long passes, but now we really need to move quickly in a tighter area to make sure there's no streaks. So when I paint, I'm gonna separate it into quadrants. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I spray, I'm gonna move really quick in each quadrant. That way I can ensure that I'm really utilizing the small fan that it has on here to get a nice uniform color. Then, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna stand back just like about 8 inches and I'm just gonna dust it on to try to make sure that that paint is nice and smooth. Now we're gonna do that dust coat to make sure it's nice and even. For regular paint, you got your hardener and you got your clear coat. So in here, how it works is the top comes off, it goes underneath, and then all you're gonna do is pop it against the surface of something hard, and that's gonna release the hardener into the rest of the can. And from here, it's kind of like a ticking time bomb. Now, some people say you get 2 or 3 days, but if you keep it in the cabinet, you can get up to about 7 days. But most likely, we're gonna use this whole can on the actual car. Okay, so I'm gonna follow that same routine with breaking the actual fender up into quadrants. That's really gonna keep it a lot smoother. Instead of those long strokes with the clear coat, it just doesn't have the fan to be able to do that. So let's watch what the clear is doing, and we're gonna put 2 coats on the clear, and then we'll see if we need more. And there you have it. We took you through all the steps of how to use rattle cans to get a good paint job. Now, do I recommend you do this on your whole entire car? No, you're gonna be into it, a lot of spray cans and a lot of coats as well. But for something, you know, you wanna touch up or make look nice, there's a place for it, and this is a place for it right here. Your Duplicolor Perfect Match, it works pretty good, and your 2K clears from Eastwood or Spray Max, you could tell it's got an amazing gloss. So I really hope that I can inspire you guys to get out there and at least try a little bit of project. But until the next one, this is Brian from Paint Society reminding you, don't overthink it, it's just paint. Let's check it out.